I think this is actually very bad to just, pick any woman to be a little bit like the flower pot. I mean, women must be chosen, because they are very competent, and there are tons of very competent women. When I was a child, I wanted to basically study volcanoes. So I'm still dealing with something which is kind of explosive, but not exactly in the same way.
How was that diverse experience help you to grow in your career?
It was very helpful indeed, and I have to say that this diversity is definitely helping me. So again, at the very beginning, it was a little bit random, but
How is the future of natural gas?
for the moment, it's pretty bright. If I am looking only at the LNG, there is so much which is under construction, and
This is the Oil and Gas Breaking Bias show, where we are going to invite industry leaders to talk about their journeys and also technologies of tomorrow, in an effort to break some of the biases that might have formed around this energy industry. Hello, everyone. I hope you are happy and healthy. I'm Anand Jha, and you are listening to the Oil and Gas Breaking Bias show. Today, I'm happy and excited because we'll be joined by Anne-Sophie Corbeau, a leading global expert on natural gas and hydrogen. She is a global research scholar at Columbia University Center on Global Energy Policy, also co-chair Gastech governing body, and shout after voice on energy transition and gas markets. So with that, let's deep dive into her leadership journey and also get her views on the biases that might exist in this industry. And Sophie, I'm very happy to have you here today. Thanks for joining me.
and thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Oh, thank you. So as we discussed, you are very much active in this space of energy transition, natural gas and hydrogen. And there's so much is happening, like when you talk about oil and gas market is very, very active. And who could be better than you to talk about this market? But before we go into the market discussions, I will like to understand about your journey, where you have started and how you have achieved what you have achieved today.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because, when I was younger, I was never ever thinking of myself doing this kind of job. Actually, I had absolutely no idea that this job existed. I mean, when I was a child, I wanted to basically study volcanoes. So I'm still dealing with something which is kind of explosive, but not exactly in the same way. And I was in France, I was studying, I was very good in terms of physics and mathematics, etc. So basically, I went to the engineering school, and then I liked everything which had something to do with, thermodynamics, etc. I went to study in Germany, and then I discovered fuel cells and hydrogen, which is why, I'm still looking at fuel cells and hydrogen these days, for more hydrogen than fuel cells. And this is how I started working in the energy world. And it was in the beginning of, late 90s, beginning of the 2000s that I started really working. And the first years of my career were really on hydrogen and fuel cells, but very rapidly I realized, I am way too early. This is not picking up. So funny thing, I was discussing that with my family, and my grandmother had a doctor, and the doctor had a very good friend, and that friend was called Joe Stanisto, who was one of the founders of Cambridge Energy Research Associates. And this is basically how I learned about CERA, Cambridge Energy Research Associates. And I was hired there also because I was speaking fluently German. So here I am starting my career in 2002 on natural gas after studying a little bit of energy economics. So it was complete random. I mean, I could have ended up pretty much anywhere. I moved from being an engineer, like real engineer, like real, thermodynamics, etc., to doing more something like consulting, energy economics, geopolitics, etc. So I would never have guessed about what I am doing today if I basically went back 30 years ago.
And that's very interesting. And also talk about this hydrogen and fuel cell. We'll talk more about it because it's really funny now. Everybody's talking about these things. But as you said, you have started or you've heard about these things in the early 2000s. Also about the diversity, like you said, like you could speak German and all those things, and how it happened by itself. Now, when I looked into your profile, like you have worked with the consulting firm, engineering firm, and also for the companies like BP as an end user. How was that diverse experience help you to grow in your career?
It was very helpful indeed, and I have to say that this diversity is definitely helping me. So again, at the very beginning, it was a little bit random, but After 7 years at Sera, I was mostly looking at the European gas market, and I felt, I had seen pretty much everything. So suddenly I saw an opportunity at the IEA. And the reason why I looked at the International Energy Agency is that because some of my colleagues had been there before. So I thought, haha, this could be interesting. And the IEA was also located in Paris. So that was actually making sense. And this is how I started at the IEA in 2009. And basically, I moved from really looking at Europe and a little bit at the interaction with Russia LNG at really looking at the global gas market. And that really, really expanded my horizons a lot. And then after, my time at the IEA was nearing its end, and I was wondering, where am I going to go? And suddenly, my former boss was a former head of research at Sera, reached out, and he was now the head of research of a new research center called CAPSA, Gabula Petroleum Studies and Research Center in Riyadh. And, he wanted somebody to set up or to develop the natural gas market expertise. And I thought, well, why not? Good idea. So this is basically how I ended up there in Capsac in Saudi Arabia. And then moving to BP was again because, a friend of mine saw this ad for BP and thought could be a good experience. So I mean, a lot of this is basically, not always happening because I wanted specifically to go somewhere else, but sometimes, because I thought, actually, that could make sense, that could be a good opportunity. And the reason I am working at the Center on Global Energy today is because I have known Jason Bordoff, who has been the founder of the center. I have known him since 2011 or 12. So, connections help you a lot when it is about moving to the next stage of your career. People
I
you have met
fully,
before, that's for
I
sure.
fully agree. I fully agree, and that's why we call network is your net worth. And
Absolutely.
that's clearly visible in your journey. Anything about mentorship? Because in some of my previous podcasts, we talk about the importance of mentorship in addition to the networking.
I was not so lucky. In fact, I mean, I had good bosses, but I never had somebody that I could really call a mentor. Compared to, other people I know really had mentors, but not really. I had a little bit of, training at BP. BP being a big company, sometimes they offer that to some of the young professionals or mid-career professionals. But that's it, basically. So I was never that lucky. I regret it, but, I think this is part of your experience. It is what it is.
But I think that's a good opportunity for our listener. If they're looking for mentor, they can reach out to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I mean, now I am more, because I am also working for university, I get a lot of students, I get a lot of research assistants. So it's more me as a mentor and,
Yes.
providing advice to the different students, etc., and seeing where they are going. And I'm trying to keep in touch with some of them. The funny thing is that I saw one of my former students from Sciences Po, because I'm also teaching in France, 2 weeks ago in Germany. And suddenly I was looking at this young woman and thinking, I know you. And here she was, happily working in Germany, still in the energy sector.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
she was in my course on energy security. I have no idea where they are all heading, but some of them, I see their names popping up every now and then. So this is good.
Yeah, you made a really good point. Actually, this industry looks like a big industry, but it's a very, very small industry. I also meet so many people that I have worked with them like few years or some decades ago. That's how it is all connected. One thing you talk about the diversity, like you moved in different countries. How was your experience when you moved to Middle East, and any other country? Like how was your adoption to that culture? Because it's a different way of working in that part of the world.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I accepted this job in Riyadh, and one evening I landed with my suitcases, etc., and something wrong happened with the welcome package because I was standing alone at the airport of Riyadh, wondering, okay, where is the guy who is supposed to pick me up? And I was looking around. And I had absolutely zero idea where Capsac was actually located, right? I mean, I had never been in Saudi Arabia before. Fortunately, after 10 minutes, he arrived. And I have to say, I really very much enjoyed my time in Saudi Arabia. I mean, people were friendly. They were looking at me like, this woman is a little bit strange because, I was doing a lot of things on markets, etc.
Yes.
I didn't have a PhD because, they are really, 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 looking very highly at people who have a PhD, and I didn't have a PhD, but I said, once, looking at the bookshelf behind me, this is my PhD, because by then I had already written a certain number of books. So I was like, I am writing another book, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked my time. It was so 2014, 2017, women were not yet allowed to drive. I am not sure I would have driven in Saudi Arabia because I don't really like driving. But anyway,
Mhm.
it was a different period. But, apart from the fact that you had to wear the abaya and usually cover your hair when you are outside,
Yes.
it was
Yes.
okay. It was okay. And
That's
I have really, I am still in contact, with, for example, Rami, somebody that I hired at that time is still there, and, we are in touch. Invited me to go there recently. Unfortunately, I couldn't, but yeah, I had a good time there.
That's great. Like, so that's the point here. Like, you see the culture, you fit in that culture, and you work with the people, and that's how you get the
Absolutely.
success. And especially in this oil and gas market, this market is very diverse. Sometimes in your career or in your journey, you might have to work the people in Gulf of Mexico to Middle East or to Asia, and if you go to those places, the cultures are totally different. And that's what you said, like there should be some flexibility to respect that culture and be part of that culture, and then you will be more successful, and that's what you just talked about.
Yes, and I have to say, my previous experience, for example, at the IAEA was already giving me some very good experience because, at the IAEA, you have people coming from the different member countries. I don't know how many there were at that time, but definitely more than 25. And, you have people from Japan, from Korea, from the US, from Australia, etc. You get acquainted to a lot of different accents. I had one boss who was Australian, one boss who was Hungarian. So yeah, you get used to that, and that's good. And you get used to, different mindset, different expertise as well. So yeah, I think having, this kind of multicultural environment is actually very important and
Yes.
helping people to basically understand the different perspectives and the different mindset. Because sometimes I am thinking, well, here in Europe, we are very European centric
Mhm,
and
mhm.
we don't put ourselves, in the place of, people from Africa, people from the Middle East, people from Asia, people from Latin America. Everybody is looking at the energy market and the gas market in particular from a
Yes.
different perspective.
I can imagine. This one topic always comes about female representation in this industry, like how you have seen where you have started and where this industry is today.
So the first memory I have about that was when I was a student. So in Germany, this is even worse than France. Women doing engineering, almost norm. I remember when I got my diploma, we were 3 women out of maybe 100 students in the
Yes.
room.
Yes.
And I remember when I was doing, thermodynamics, the professor would come to the class and say, meine Dame, so meine Dame, the only woman, and Herren, so lady and gentleman, because I was
Lady,
the only one there, which was
you're the
a
only
lot of
one
fun.
there.
I don't know to what extent, this has changed, but, there was definitely a lack of diversity. I have to say that, yes, there are not that many women in the energy industry, but during my career, there were quite a lot of women. It was not like, there were 2 or 3 women out of 100. It was much more balanced. And I think, whether at Serra, at the IEA, also at Capsat, there were quite a lot of young women, especially young Saudi women, and at BP as well. And now I am working at CJEP, and there are also quite a lot of women. So I have not seen, this you know, discrepancy between men and women. But I know I was probably lucky, and this is not always the case. And I have also probably benefited from the fact that because, I am quite good at what I am doing, women are actually, people are looking for women who can actually,
Yes.
talk, say something intelligent, and
And
also,
take ownership.
be on panels, etc.
Yes.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
No, makes sense. Just before we move into our industry discussion, you said there are so many people came in your journey that help you to move into different type of roles and responsibility, and also different of the world. What do you think, why they came to you? As you talk about the work that you are doing, because I want to understand, also I want to give a message to our listeners, like why they have picked you, like if you have to underline.
Well, I guess, somehow I was doing my job relatively well, and, people knew, I was a diligent, reliable worker, and, I would get the job done. It would be, done with satisfaction, etc. And, this is how people basically, notice you. And then, when there is a job opportunity, they think about you and reach out to you and say, I have this position open. Would you be interested? This is located there and there. And this is basically how I moved to CAPSARC, how I moved to BP, and how I moved to CJEP
Yes.
at the end of the day.
You made a really good point, because why I ask you that question, because I want to underline, because everybody wants to move in their journey, in their career, or in the business, and but because we want to move that one, sometimes we stop doing our work that we have to do today, and that work starts to suffer. The point I'm making here, yes, everybody should have ambition, but do the work that you have today. That's how you can grow and reach where you want to go. You cannot just stop
Absolutely.
doing your work now and hoping for best for tomorrow.
And also keep in touch with people. I mean, around Christmas and New Year, I spend quite a bit of time, reaching out to a certain number of people, saying, hi, how are you? How is family? How is work? What has been going on, etc., etc. So, and, I don't know. I mean, I send several hundreds of messages on LinkedIn, by
Yes,
email,
yes,
etc. It takes a lot of time, but, it's always good, to keep in touch with people, because otherwise, I mean, people forget and you
yes,
forget. And yeah, what I have tended also to notice is that now I mean, so many people have seen me on stage, and I don't always see the people,
yes.
who are in the room. So they come to me and say, "Oh, I know who you are," and I'm like, "I have no idea who you are, like no idea." But yeah, hi, nice to meet you.
And that's great. So it also is important to keep your network warm.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's great. No, thank you so much, Anne-Sophie. Now moving into our next topic is about the industry itself. And as I said, like you have seen this industry very closely, like from hydrogen to natural gas. If you have to see what are the opportunity and challenges that industry is offering today, as compared to where you have started a few decades ago.
It's growing. I mean, when I did my book on LNG a decade ago, I was comparing the LNG industry in the early days like a basket of kitten, I mean, it's comfortable, it's warm, and everybody knows each other. And let's face it, when you had about 10 LNG exporters and importers, everybody knew each other. Now, I mean, I go to conferences and okay, I know quite a few people, but there are so many people whom I don't know because, I mean, the world is very diverse. There are so much more companies, which are doing this and that. So it's difficult to keep track, of everything. So I think this is one of the things that I have observed. And also, I mean, you keep expanding your horizon. So, it's not only that I'm doing gas and LNG, you also need to look at other things like climate tech. You need to look at,
Mm-hmm.
well, also looking at hydrogen. I am also looking at geopolitics because, this
Yes,
is
yes,
becoming more and more important.
right.
And for the past 2 years, we have been talking increasingly about AI and data centers. And
Yes.
this is not possible to just ignore that
Mm.
because, even if I wanted, suddenly the rise in AI and data centers in terms of power demand would have implications for the export markets, would have also implications for global power demand and therefore for gas demand. Suddenly, and I think this is particularly true for natural gas, you are linked to pretty much everything which is happening in the energy world. And this is what I was explaining to my former boss at BP when he was like, it's taking you a lot of time to basically do, your forecast because I was doing the medium
Yes,
and
yes,
short-term forecast, like,
yes,
next
yes,
18 months and next five
yes.
years. And yeah, because I mean, you have to basically understand, especially when you are doing the global gas balances for each LNG importing country, what is happening there. And I cannot, put together all the Asian market. I mean, Taiwan, Japan, Korea. Okay, I mean, you could think, yeah, I can put them together, but no, because I mean, they are reacting in a completely different way. You can, you cannot put Thailand and Vietnam together. I mean, different markets altogether. So, and things like power demand, but also the interaction with coal, with renewable, with nuclear is important. So suddenly you become an expert in a lot of different things when you are doing gas. I think much more than when you are doing other things.
How is the future of natural gas?
For the moment, I mean, it's pretty bright. I mean, if I am looking only at the LNG, there is so much which is under construction, and I have posted recently about that. I mean, wow, I keep having to update my graphics on how many LNG projects are coming to the market. The thing is, I am not sure where all this LNG is going to go. No, you will need to create new demand or make more space for all this LNG. So it looks interesting, but at the same time, I have the impression that the global gas market and the global energy market in general are becoming more and more geopolitical, much more than before. I say that when I joined the IEA, it was in 2009, just after the first big cut from Russia to Europe. I have the impression that it's still much more political than it was before. And if I were to do, for example, I mean, forecast, I mean, you would have to include into that a certain doses of geopolitics, which before you were more treating like, okay, I can have a sensitivity analysis around that case, but now it's actually part of what we are living today.
Yes, and it's changing every day.
Up every morning wondering, okay, so what has happened yesterday night in the United States?
And that changes the narrative. That's great.
Indeed.
What's your view on hydrogen? There was lot of excitement about hydrogen a few years ago, and I have been to some of the conference. That topic is getting less and less attention. What's your view on that?
I think people were way too bullish before. We had some sort of hype around hydrogen, and you were going to put hydrogen absolutely everywhere, in houses, in cars, etc. The thing is that hydrogen is a complicated molecule. It's expensive to produce. It's not easy to transport. And it only makes sense in the sectors where you would have difficulties to electrify. And that's why, it needs to be used where it makes sense. And now we are looking at two different things. First of all, people have a better understanding of where the demand potential is. And a certain number of the projects which were absolutely not making sense before are starting to disappear. So you have projects which are still moving forward, and the Hydrogen Council has published recently, their latest compass, and also the International Energy Agency has also published their global hydrogen review. So it's growing, not as much as people were thinking, but it's still growing. And we have, different things happening in different regions. So China is definitely developing very fast renewable hydrogen. There is some development also of low carbon hydrogen in the United States, but the crucial thing is really the demand side. The demand picture is really very important because as we have all realized, and I'm working a little bit with H2 Global on that, because hydrogen and clean hydrogen is more expensive than the normal hydrogen, and in new cases, you basically need to make additional investments, it requires some incentives. And this is what a lot of people are trying to bridge with policies, with incentives, with production tax credits, etc. And of course, for that, we also need a lot of regular regulatory stability. That's probably one of the most important things. But stability also, we don't spend years on doing the regulation, which is a little bit what we tend to do in Europe. I mean, we spend a lot of time, trying to have something which is 100% perfect. And in fact, where the perfection is not really helping the
No.
pragmatism.
No, and you lose the time, the critical time. You lose the momentum if you look
Exactly.
for that perfection. So we have to start somewhere. So I fully agree. Hydrogen is still there, but it might not be getting enough attention. Maybe in a couple of years we might see hydrogen making um, uh, making it feel its presence more than what we see today. Because the market is all about the demand. If there will be enough demand, producer will find the best way of producing hydrogen. That's great. So it's good to know this gas market is not going anywhere. It will still transition itself into different roles and shapes, and it will still present opportunities for someone who's trying to make it big in this industry. So that's good to know. But coming back to your journey, and Sophie, if we have given a chance to make reflection on your journey, what changes you might make?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I don't know, to be honest. I'm quite happy, with my journey. Okay, the most difficult thing, in fact, has been on the personal side. Because it's not easy, when two people have a career, and especially when you start, moving internationally, to basically move together. And I have to say that on that side, we were not successful. When I moved to Saudi Arabia, I thought that my husband would easily find a job. He's working in the automotive industry, but it didn't happen. So we had to be flexible, him coming with our daughter to Saudi Arabia, me trying to find any opportunity to be in Europe, us finding, a way to basically meet in the middle. So when I moved to BP, it was easier. It was much easier because, basically I was spending Monday to Thursday in London, and I was coming back for Friday and the weekend. So that was much more manageable up until COVID happened. And unfortunately, when COVID happened, this is when you realize that the UK had really decided to leave the EU and that you couldn't actually cross the border. So at some point, I was alone in my apartment because Char from BP had decided that no, my job was in London. I had absolutely no business in France. I quote, the lady said, "What do you think? We're not paying you to stay in France." Well, thank you very much. So here I was, mid-April, taking along with about 20 other people the Eurostar, the only Eurostar running that day. I think there was probably one person per car in the Eurostar. That was completely crazy. There were more policemen than passengers. And I went back to the UK to be alone in my apartment. And at some point I was like, what am I doing here? I am alone without my family. I may die from COVID. Well, okay, no, that makes no sense. And this is, when I started basically talking to some people, some friends, etc. And this is when at some point I got an email from Jason saying, hey, we need to talk. Okay, great. Yes, we need to talk. And this is basically how I ended up working at CJEP, where I am finally with my family in France. Everything is fine, and this is very important because at some point, you can be as successful as you wish professionally, but family is also very important.
I fully agree. And like decisions you had to make because of your professional choice, what you made, the importance of family cannot be undermined. They are with you, like in your success and your failures. So that's great. Continuing the theme of your journey, and now we are going to rapid fire round. And Sophie, are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, let's see. How ready are you? Let's start with the first question. If you sum up the global gas market today in one word, what would it be?
Bullish, 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 bullish.
I could see like lots of productions. New companies are coming. New startups are coming, and they are producing lots of gas in this market. I fully agree. It's bullish, and it's going to be stay like that for a couple of years, definitely.
Yeah. And also, if you had been at Gastech a few weeks ago in Milan, the atmosphere was really, really bullish. It was very exceptional. In particular, you would have thought we were in Houston because there were so many Americans and they were extremely bullish. Well, the Europeans a little bit less, but there was this sense really of bullishness.
That's great. You have lived in Paris, London, and Riyadh. Which city sparked the most energy insights for you?
That's a tough question. I would say probably London. In London, you have so many things happening. It's, from an energy perspective, it's much more lively. But of course, Riyadh has changed a lot since I left.
Between hydrogen and natural gas, which one excites you more for the future?
Tough one. Okay, I would say for the moment it's natural gas because there are so many things happening in terms of geopolitics that, every morning I wake up and think, hey, what has happened? What is happening? It's
I
making
know.
my day,
It's every
I
news
can
story.
post three things. Yes, I mean, a lot of different stories. So I have to say, yeah, for the moment, I mean, I am keeping an eye on hydrogen, of course, but natural gas is quite a lot of fun.
Okay, let me ask you one follow-up question. What's a timeline do you see for hydrogen or natural gas when that transition will happen?
Well, I mean, for natural gas, we don't know. It's still going to be with us definitely until I end my career in probably something like 20 years now. And hydrogen, well, I hope hydrogen is finally going to take off. It's probably not going to be as fast as people were initially expecting, but eventually we will get there. I mean, we just need to solve, this little demand problem.
What's one misconception about LNG market you would love to bust?
Huh. Misconception. I don't know. I would need to ask people who have misconceptions about energy
Maybe, maybe,
market.
maybe it's too bullish.
No, I mean, in terms of misconception, I mean, there was one, but it's more on the pipeline side, which was that Russian gas is cheap. While, I mean, it was
Okay.
actually not cheap. I mean, it was
Okay.
sold at spot prices, so it was not really cheap. I think, this is an important one, which is, very sticky here in Europe.
Understood. What's your go-to morning fuel? Coffee, tea, or something else?
Tea. I am completely addicted to tea. I mean, and it has to be Earl Grey.
Because you have spent a lot of time in London.
No, 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 no. First of all, I hate coffee, but I really hate coffee. I mean, since I was a child, I cannot even drink a drop of coffee. I mean, you imagine my face the first time I ate tiramisu because I didn't know there was coffee inside. I made such a face. That was really laughable. No, I am definitely a tea person. After I basically abandoned, hot chocolate and milk, I moved directly to tea. And that was probably I was a teenager, so something like 15, 16.
Okay, okay, that's it's good to know. So it's not London impact.
No, it's definitely not the London impact. No, no, absolutely not.
That's great. Which is more challenging, forecasting global energy demand or writing a book?
Oh, definitely the first one. Writing a book, well, it takes time, but eventually you get there. It just takes time. Forecasting energy demand or energy demand is, I mean, there are so many variables. I have to say, I mean, the thing is that, you are doing it and eventually you know that this is going to be wrong. So you have to start again.
No, no. If you weren't in energy, what career would you see yourself in?
No idea. Can I say no idea?
I know, like you talked about how it all happened by itself, with the people around you. But now is this opportunity to think.
Okay, I mean, if I were to completely change, I mean, basically, I bifurcated from my, engineering background very early. So the funny thing to do would be actually, to go back to a more technical job.
Okay, okay, that's great. No, so with that we are concluding our rapid fire round. It was really good, and we also came to know more about you from this discussion. No, no, thank you. Thank you, Anne-Sophie. You did really good. Just continuing the discussion here, we have talked about many things about your career, like your diversity in the terms of the work you have done. You lived in different countries, and also we talked about the importance of natural gas and hydrogen today and in the future. But we have to summarize everything as one key takeaway for our listeners, what that would be.
Networking is very important. I
Mm.
think this is a key for my career, and this is what I would advise people to do in general.
And also, you have mentioned keep those network warm. As you said, like now
Absolutely.
it's much easier. Like you have a WhatsApp, you have a LinkedIn, you have like many other social media platforms. It's not just about connecting with someone, but try to keep that engagement warm. That's very
Exactly.
No, that's good. Last not the least, because this show is about the bias, we have talked about few of the biases and during our conversation, but you have to underline one of the bias that might exist in this industry, and how can we come over that challenge?
I think, when I started, young women were not really taken seriously. I'm not sure to what extent this has been solved. And I think this is still a problem. And we need to have, a better balance in general. I think it depends where you are,
Mhm.
in which country or region you are. But this is one of the challenges I would highlight.
Yes, and you mentioned about this in one of my podcast interview. She mentioned about even you say something in that boardroom, sometimes that voice is not. I will say it's not regarded that strong. So the point she was making, she said something, and the other person, the male, he said the same thing, and even though like, that lady said the same thing, but she didn't get the recognition.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also, I mean, there has been at some point a tendency, just to have women there, just to be there, to be a little bit like the flower pot. And I think this is actually very bad to just, pick any woman.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
women must be chosen, because they are very competent, and there are tons of very competent women. I know some women who are ministers, who are CEOs, etc., and they are great.
So how can we overcome this challenge? Like, is about the mindset, is about the culture, is
It's about
about
the
the
mindset. It's about the education as well, recognizing that, diversity is actually bringing growth and is bringing also opportunities.
that makes perfect sense. So thank you so much for your time. And so before we sign off today, and Sophie, anything to add here?
No, well, thank you very much for inviting me, and I hope this is interesting for the listeners.
I really enjoyed our conversation. I hope same for our listeners. So with that, I will sign off today. Keep listening. Oil and Gas Baking by Show. Thank you.